Bizarre, 6 ancient myths that might be real. There is something magical about stories that can transport us to another world, especially when our own is full of troubles. We often turn to books, movies, and video games for some escapism and entertainment. But did you know that many of these stories have roots in real-life events, big and small? Even more amazing, some myths and legends have proven to be true. And sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. But how much do we really know about them? And what evidence is there to support their existence? In this video, we will explore 6 ancient stories that were inspired by real events. Stay tuned to find out more. King Arthur. Let me tell you about the legendary King Arthur and his epic tale of medieval times. According to those old histories, Arthur was this extraordinary king who apparently stood up against the invading Saxons during the late 5th and early 6th centuries. Quite the hero if you ask me. But here's the twist. Arthur's character is mostly a concoction of literary invention and folklore. It's like his story took on a life of its own, capturing the imaginations of people all across Europe. It's fascinating how legends can grow and evolve over time, isn't it? One of the key players in shaping the Arthurian legend was the clever chap named Geoffrey of Monmouth, who lived in the 12th century. He was quite the storyteller. In his imaginative work called Historia Regum Britannia, Geoffrey weaved a captivating tale of King Arthur as this mighty ruler of Britain. Not only did Arthur defend his land against those pesky Saxons, but he also expanded his empire through glorious victories. Geoffrey's writings became incredibly popular, spreading Arthur's fame far and wide. There's more. Another talented writer, Chrétien de Troyes, from good old France, entered the scene around the same 12th century period. Now, Chrétien added some spice to the Arthurian saga. He introduced new characters like Lancelot, a brave and noble knight, and brought in the Holy Grail, this mysterious and sacred artifact that sent everyone on a quest for its discovery. And let's not forget about the Knights of the Round Table, a loyal bunch of Arthur's trusted companions who exemplified honor and chivalry. So, you see, the Arthurian legend wasn't set in stone. It was a story that evolved and grew with the contributions of various writers and storytellers throughout the medieval period. Each one added their own layers of creativity and imagination, making King Arthur's world all the more captivating and enduring. It's no wonder that these stories have fascinated us for centuries. Vikings' horned helmet myth. The Vikings were Scandinavian people who explored Europe from the late 8th century to the 11th centuries. The Viking Age lasted from their first raids in the 6th century of Norman conquest of England in 1066. It was an adventurous time. Vikings were fierce adventurers, wearing helmets and wielding axes. King Canute's guards had metal axes and helmets, but their helmets did not have horns. That's a myth. Vikings wore plain helmets made from leather and sometimes metal, no horns. The horned helmet idea came from artistic and creative interpretations over time. So, Vikings were brave and skilled warriors, but their helmets were hornless. It's interesting how legends and history can differ from reality, right? But the Vikings and their spirits still inspire us today. The Holy Grail. The Holy Grail is a legendary object that has fascinated people for centuries. It is often said to be the cup of Jesus used at the Last Supper, and that Joseph of Arimathea used to collect his blood at the cross. This idea was first suggested by Robert de Boron, a 12th century writer who linked the Grail to the Christian story. There were 2 main types of literature about the Holy Grail. One is based on the stories of King Arthur and his knights, who went on a quest to find the Grail and its secrets. The other type is based on the stories of Joseph of Arimathea, who brought the Grail to Britain and kept it safe. The Holy Grail has inspired many writers and artists over time, who have given it different meanings and interpretations. Some see it as a symbol of God's grace, others as a metaphor for human desire, and others as a source of mystery and adventure. The Holy Grail is an enigma that challenges us to discover its true nature. Prester John the King. Prester John was a legendary king who ruled over a hidden Christian kingdom in the East. He appeared in many European chronicles from the 12th to the 17th centuries. He was based on the stories of travelers who claimed to have met him or heard of him. The legend of Prester John became very popular during the Crusades, when European Christians were fighting against the Muslims for their holy land. Prester John was seen as a potential ally and a hero who had defeated the Muslim king of Persia. His story gave hope and motivation to the Crusaders. Prester John's legend also inspired missionaries for centuries. His kingdom was a goal for those who wanted to spread their faith and discover new lands. Prester John was more than a legendary king. He was a symbol of the hopes and dreams of European Christians in a turbulent time. His tale sparked the imagination of travelers and missionaries for centuries. Rheathemus, the High King. You know, there's this fascinating figure from history known as Rheathemus, but here's the twist. Rheathemus isn't actually a name, it's a title. According to the New York Times, it means High King. So, his true name remains a mystery, lost to the depths of history. In medieval times, it wasn't uncommon for rulers to be known more by their titles than their actual names. Take Genghis Khan, for example. We all know him by that famous title, but his real name was Temujin. So, Rheathemus isn't alone in this naming convention. What's intriguing is that scholars have noticed some interesting parallels between the scant records we have of Rheathemus and the legendary tales of King Arthur. One major similarity is their shared campaigns across the sea into what is now France. Back then, it was known as Gaul. According to historical records, Rheathemus indeed led such a military expedition, which is a significant detail. You see, it aligns with the earliest stories about King Arthur, before all the dramatic embellishments were added in later retellings. During such a turbulent and war-torn era in British history, the story of a heroic figure like Arthur would have undoubtedly held great significance for the common people. It's no wonder his legend became so popular in folklore. Now, we can't say for certain if Rheathemus was, in fact, Arthur, but the evidence certainly makes a compelling case. Isn't it fascinating how history and mythology intertwine, blurring the lines between fact and fiction? It's a reminder that sometimes truth and legend can become entangled in the tapestry of time. The Pied Piper. The Pied Piper of Hamelin was a rat catcher with a magical pipe. He lived in a town in Germany called Hamelin in the Middle Ages. He wore colorful clothes and played his pipes to lure the rats away from the town. But when the townsfolk refused to pay him, he got angry and used his pipe to lead the children of Hamelin away, never to return. Some people think that the Pied Piper was a symbol of hope during a time of plague. He could drive away the rats, which carried disease, and save the people from sickness. But he also taught them a lesson about honesty and greed. The Pied Piper of Hamelin is a legend that mixes history and mythology. It shows us the power of music and the consequences of breaking promises. It's a tale that has fascinated people for centuries and still intrigues us today. The medieval period was full of enchanting stories that mixed magic and reality. They were not just entertainment, they were symbolic and supernatural. Legends were different. They were historical events with imagination and creativity. It's amazing how stories can shape our view of the past, right? These are just some of the ancient myths that might have a basis in reality. Of course, we can never be sure of the truth behind these stories, but they are certainly fascinating to explore and imagine. Maybe there is more to these myths than meets the eye, and maybe there are still secrets waiting to be uncovered. What do you think? Do you believe in any of these myths? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.